Everyone. I'm Shin, and I'm a researcher at Uniswell Labs. Today I'll talk about the economic security of on-chain oracles. Let me just quickly flip through the slides so you kind of know the structure of the talk, and then we can come back and revisit. So the first, how do I? This one? The big one? Okay. So I'm going to start by motivating why we are talking about this, but given that people are coming to this particular conference, I'm assuming people know the importance of the on-chain oracle security. Then the second part will be analyzing the exact cost of manipulating a particular on-chain oracle, given that you know everything about the pool and how the oracle is designed, which will serve as a foundation for the third part, which is if you know the exact calculation, you can then evaluate the security of any particular pool combined with a particular oracle design. This will be an incomplete framework, but it serves as a starting point to asking the question of how do we design better oracles and enhance the manipulation resistance of a particular oracle. The fourth section will just be some stylized examples of how do we think about designing an oracle and implement better ones. And the last one will just be some recommended best practice in terms of having your own oracle design that's manipulation resistant. So let me go back to the beginning now. Whoops. Okay, so we know that a lot of protocols use on-chain oracles to function. Specifically, lending protocols are a prime example. There's hundreds of billions of dollars, and you need to know whether their collateral is enough to kind of collateralize the debt that people are borrowing. Specifically, Chainlink is a very popular oracle that feeds into them, partially because it's seen as this more manipulation-resistant oracle. Well, ironically, because some of it is somewhat centralized. And then there's newer lending protocols like Euler, who experimented using Uniswap protocol as a decentralized price feed. But they did switch to Chainlink after the Ethereum switch to proof of stake, which I'll talk about why. But even Chainlink is not 100% safe. And we have seen these highly profitable trading strategies executed against it, mostly because some pools are, there's only a few venues, so the price feed can only come from certain areas. And if you basically manipulate the entire market, then there's no way of being kind of manipulation resistant because there's no other source of truth. And specifically, proof of stake changes things for a simple implementation of, for example, TWAP on Uniswap, because previously, if you manipulate a pool in one block, you don't know who's going to control the next block. So you effectively has to defend your position through somewhat of a priority gas auction, and you might have to pay back all your potential profit by bidding the next block. And so it's effectively impossible to keep a manipulation going for more than 3 blocks. Whereas in proof of stake, you kind of know the proposer of the next 32 blocks in ahead of time. And some of the large validation pools or staking pools, they might even control quite a few blocks sequentially. So it's very easy for them to do it, assuming that they're not behaving benevolently or anything. And that's kind of the concern that drives Euler to switch to Chainlink post POS. So let's look at one example that demonstrates why. So assume that you have a particular target. Let's say there's a Uniswap pool, and you say, hey, I want to manipulate the 30-minute TWAP by 20%. What do I have to do? Well, first of all, you need to know how the 30-minute TWAP is calculated, and specifically, it's a geometric mean of kind of a snapshot at the end of every block of where the tick is in the pool. So if you want to manipulate a 30-minute average, or the geometric mean of it, by 20%, you effectively have to, let's say you control one block, then you have to move the tick within, or the price within that block by somewhat near the scale of 250,000 ticks within one block, which is a lot of money for a deep pool. And as the number of blocks you control increase, this amount kind of decrease pretty fast. So if you control, let's say, 10 blocks in a row, and you can basically keep that, you can basically censor all background transactions or censor all arbitrage, and keep that manipulated price in place, then you just need to move it by 1/5 of what you have to do, or actually maybe 1/10 here. So the point is to demonstrate that as you control more blocks, the cost of manipulation is reduced drastically. The tricky thing is, at any point in time, the distribution of liquidity within a pool is unknown, right? So this is showing the distribution of liquidity through time. And so it's not the most straightforward thing to know exactly how far you need to move the price within the pool to achieve certain amount of manipulation. But we did have some tools internally to figure it out. So this is the amount of WETH that's required to manipulate the USDC WETH Oracle TWAP by 20% throughout time. So as you see, like, the pool has been initiated, there's some initial instability period, but after which it costs on the order of hundreds of millions of dollars to attack. Granted that that's a very, very deep pool, it might be pretty costly, but if it's a shallower pool, or if you somehow control a lot more blocks, then it's definitely an achievable target. Okay, so now that we know the foundation, we can look at some frameworks. So in my mind, the trade-off that you're making when you're designing oracles is you're trying to trade off between a few parameters. So let's say your liquidity is fixed. You kind of take the amount of liquidity you can gather as a given. Then you're making a decision between achieving a more live oracle, meaning it reacts faster to a new data point, versus the cost of manipulation, right? And if you want your oracle to be more sensitive to new data points, then it's inevitably going to be more subject to a big data point that's not kind of right. The second thing is, and these shape, they're kind of like intuitive shape. They're not really the scale here. The second thing is, if you have a latency in mind that you're willing to tolerate, then your game becomes, how do I gather more liquidity in my pool? And this is something that prompts maybe a design space, which is kind of protocol-owned defensive liquidity. So you might even create a lending pool where you say, hey, you lend me money, which I put in the pool as a defense against my own oracle, and you're paid this much over time for providing protection of my oracle from manipulation. The third thing is how much deviation you can tolerate for the oracle price to be moving away from the true market price. And that's kind of interesting because there is somewhat of a optimal distribution once you have an exact deviation tolerance in mind, because you can kind of just concentrate your pool to the extent that it becomes overly expensive to manipulate. But beyond that point, if there's no liquidity in the pool, or at least assuming there's no defensive liquidity in the pool, then it's kind of trivially easy for people to just push price farther out when there's no liquidity. Okay, so how to make better oracles? These are all kind of hand-wavy ideas. I'm happy to talk about them more offline if you want to hit me up on Twitter or anything. But the first thing is, this is a case-by-case analysis. So the first thing you want to know is, what's your objective? Are you making a perpetual oracle for a perpetual protocol, lending protocol, NFT? I think they all kind of warrant different type of design. You also want to know your constraint. So how far can you tolerate your oracle to deviate away from the current market mid, for example? And how much liquidity do you think your pool will attract over time? And finally, how live do you need your oracle to be? You need to assume that someone is out there who will always try to execute some highly profitable trading strategy as soon as it's profitable, right? So it's kind of not okay to say, oh yeah, like most of the time it won't get hacked, because that's not how it works. And finally, get audits. Audits involve audits of your code as well as some sort of economic security analysis. And Mark has just talked about Uniswap v4 hooks. We believe that there's abundance of design in custom design hooks that can sort of expand the design space of oracles or on-chain oracles vastly. Some of the ideas that my colleagues and we at Labs have explored are, for example, truncated oracles, which is basically an oracle that whenever they're faced with a big kind of oracle price update, I will say, whoa, 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 let's take it easy and slowly. You have this price change of, say, 500% in one block. Let me gradually take that information in, right? Maybe 5% a block, 10% a block. And if it somehow immediately goes back to the previous level, I only taking how much I have taken so far, and I kind of throw away the rest of the update. So that's one way that's kind of sacrificed a little of latency, or maybe liveness. But on the other hand, you can say, wait, like if things are immediately reverting back to normal, maybe that data point should be thrown out anyways. So yeah, try v4 hooks. So here's one example that I've written out. Let you start with your objective that you want the highest resistance against an attack to move 30-minute TWAP by over 20%. Your constraint is you have a liquidity of $20 million, and you assume that like the profit of a successful manipulation, it scales linearly with an attack of like your TVL or whatever. And then once you know all of this, you can say, okay, if this is what I'm working with as parameters, maybe I can kind of find the optimal defensive liquidity distribution in my pool. Or maybe I can find the best like truncated oracle design or medium oracle design, something like that. And it's basically just solving a constraint optimization problem and check if the cost of manipulation is greater than the gain by some margin. You know. And the last thing here I want to talk about is, I guess I'm just kind of reiterating some of the design space that's maybe new in Uniswap v4. So for example, you can, well, this is available in Uniswap v3 as well, which is you can kind of generate your own defensive liquidity and use it as a means to defend against these attacks. And bear in mind, the really kind of convenient thing or things are, number one, it's a geometric mean, at least in Uniswap v3. So as you push price farther away from your current mid price, it's kind of mechanically true that it becomes exponentially more expensive the further out you go. And also there's a fee component. So it might be only a 30 basis point pool, but if you're buying ETH for like $1 billion per ETH, then it's really, really expensive to push price marginally further. The second thing you can do to increase your liquidity is you can first start bootstrapping your protocol around pools that are well established, right? So for example, like WETH USDC pool or USDC USDT pool, these are pools with very deep liquidity. And if you start with those pools, you don't have to bootstrap your liquidity from zero. And you can just say, hey, here's my V4 hook that implements this very stable Oracle. Why don't we try that? That's a good starting point. The second thing you can do is increase latency tolerance in your Oracle design. And that's really up to the product that you're trying to push to market based on the Oracle, right? So I've run this a poll of like which use case has the highest demand for Oracle liveness. I think it's just related to the inherent leverage in those products, and perpetuals won the race, I guess. But again, like these things, you can kind of design them around the most feasible Oracle that you can come up with. And there's truncated, medianized, and many more type of design that you can implement in Uniswell v4 through hooks. Yeah, same thing. You can kind of increase the max deviation tolerance. Again, Uniswell v4, hooks, good place to start. And that's all I want to talk about today. Oh, sorry, I just realized I added some lines for other talks at Uniswell Labs. If you want to watch them, maybe just check their Twitter account. I'm sure there's a calendar out. But yeah, otherwise feel free to DM me on Twitter or through my own personal website. I'm happy to look at your design. Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
AMMs arguably can't represent the whole market, no matter how close tracked they are. With spot price, it's manipulatable, and the top price is not accurate enough. What do you think, as an industry, we should just drop the idea of using AMMs as oracles at all?
I think it's a radical idea. I think, yes, I agree that AMM is not the entire market, but also like no other market really is. And it's really just compare, again, like the whole point of this talk is to say, you can't just wave your hand and say, hey, this is the best possible. It's never going to be manipulated, but rather it's really a cost versus benefit comparison in the mind of the potential hacker. And you have to be one step ahead and say, hey, I know this is what you're going to do, but every time you do it, you're going to lose money, so you might not do it. And so again, like AMMs, they're not the entire market, but they're subject to arbitrage, and so their price is basically tracking the global price somewhat. And working with that design, you kind of work out and back out your math of saying, this is really a constrained optimization that I'm doing, and my Oracle is somewhat close to the true price. And it definitely brings the benefit of decentralization and all that, and I'm sure you know of.
Any other questions? All right, David. Oh, over there. Hi. Are you familiar with Anja Finance, any chance? It's a random new protocol.
Not yet.
Okay, yeah. So they have basically, it's a borrow market. I'm not super familiar with it, but they actually are Oracle free. And I think they use some kind of arbitrage for that, which is specific to their protocol. But I'm curious if protocols could use maybe AMMs or even centralized oracles, but then have some kind of fallback mechanism where you can have some kind of arbitrage if the oracle is like wrong, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the design. A lot of option oracles are trying to build basically this market-oriented approach and say we're oracle-free. But just as Uniswap pools, oracle-free kind of means that we just don't update and we wait for the market participants to update us. So if you're working with that assumption, then you have to know that, just as there's some toxicity flow discussion, occurring on Uniswell pools all the time, that might happen to your own design, depending on how you have incentivized people to participate. So no oracle just means there's an inherent oracle of like not updating. Yeah. All right. I think time is up, so maybe.
Everyone give it up for Jin. Thank you very
Thanks.
much.